The whispering shadows of Eldridge Manor. In the forgotten hills of rural Vermont, where autumn leaves clung to twisted branches like desperate, clawing fingers, stood Eldridge Manor. This ancient estate, erected in the late 1700s by the reclusive architect Elias Eldridge, had claimed its creator one stormy night. He vanished without a trace, leaving behind only echoes of madness. Locals gathered in dimly lit taverns, their voices dropping to hushed tones as they spun tales of a curse woven into the very stones. They claimed the house fed on the souls of the foolish, trapping them in eternal torment. But Sarah Thompson, a sharp-eyed journalist in her mid-20s, brushed off such superstitions as the ramblings of idle minds. Fresh from the drudgery of small-town gossip columns, she hungered for a breakout story, one that would thrust her into the spotlight of national acclaim. Her bylines splashed across front pages. Sarah arrived on a crisp October evening, the sun bleeding into the horizon like a wounded beast slinking into oblivion. Eldridge Manor loomed ahead, its jagged Victorian spires stabbing at the bruised sky, windows gaping like hollow, unblinking eyes. The driveway, choked with thorny weeds and cracked gravel, crunched ominously under the tires of her battered old sedan. She killed the engine and stepped out, the sharp chill wind whipping at her coat and carrying faint, earthy scents of rot from the overgrown grounds. Clutching her worn notebook and a heavy-duty flashlight, Sarah felt a flicker of unease snake up her spine, but she shoved it down. "This place is perfect," she whispered to the gathering dusk, her breath fogging in the air. "Pure gold for the headlines." The massive oak front door creaked open with eerie ease, as if the house itself had been lying in wait, its hinges oiled by invisible hands. Inside, the air hung thick and stagnant, laced with the musty tang of decay and long-forgotten dampness. Cobwebs shimmered like gossamer funeral veils across the grand chandeliers, their crystals dulled by decades of dust. The wooden floors groaned inside under her tentative footsteps, protesting her intrusion. Sarah swept her flashlight across the ground floor, its beams slicing through the oppressive gloom like a knife. In the parlor, she paused before a gallery of faded portraits, stern-faced ancestors with painted gazes that seemed to track her every move, their eyes alive with unspoken judgment. One painting seized her attention, a striking woman with raven-black hair cascading like midnight silk, her piercing green eyes radiating a toxic blend of profound sorrow and simmering malice. The tarnished plaque below read, "Lavinia Eldridge, beloved wife." Sarah shivered, jotting a quick note. Who was she, and why did her stare feel so personal? As twilight bled into night, Sarah claimed the library as her base, a cavernous chamber lined floor to ceiling with sagging shelves of moldering leather-bound tomes, their pages brittle as autumn bones. She ignited an old lantern, its flickering golden glow carving islands of light amid the encroaching shadows. Settling into a threadbare armchair, she scribbled furiously, piecing together fragments of local lore. Hours slipped by unnoticed, the wind outside rising to a banshee wail, rattling the window panes like frantic fists. Then, just past midnight, it began, a faint whisper, soft as silk dragged across cold stone. It slithered from the walls, or was it the floorboards beneath her feet? "Leave now!" The words coiled in her mind, chilling her marrow. Sarah shook her head sharply, forcing a laugh. "Just the house settling," she muttered, though her pulse quickened. Undeterred, her journalist's fire burning brighter than fear, Sarah pressed upward. The grand staircase spiraled like a serpent's coil, each step amplifying her footsteps into thunderous echoes that reverberated unnaturally. The second floor unfolded into a labyrinth of bedrooms, doors hanging ajar like half-hearted invitations to doom. In one, a nursery preserved in eerie stasis, faded wallpaper peeling like sunburned skin, a wooden rocking horse sentinel in the corner, its once vibrant paint chipped to reveal lifeless, staring eyes. Drawn closer despite herself, Sarah watched in horror as the horse stirred to life. It rocked gently, creaking back and forth on invisible currents, accompanied by a soft, innocent giggle that bubbled from the empty air. No draft could explain it. Her heart hammered like a war drum, but she rationalized through gritted teeth. Old mechanisms. Wind tricks. Yet doubt gnawed at her resolve. Deeper into the velvet blackness of night, the whispers swelled, no longer vague murmurs but insistent fragments weaving a tapestry of terror. She waits for you, in the glass. They clawed at the edges of her sanity, burrowing into her thoughts. Sarah fled to the master bedroom, desperate for answers, and pried open a loose wall panel. Behind it lay a hidden diary, its leather cover cracked and stained. Elias's handwriting spilled across the pages in frantic, ink-blotted scrawl, chronicling his unraveling. His beloved Lavinia had perished in childbirth 2 centuries prior, her body racked by fever as their child slipped stillborn into the world. But her spirit clung fiercely, manifesting in fevered visions of the babe's ghostly cries. Lavinia demands a sacrifice to quiet the child. One entry raged. She whispers promises of eternal companionship, but only in exchange for fresh life, blood for blood. I hear her every night, her voice silk over razors, luring the unwary. God help me, I built this prison for us both. Sarah's hands quaked, the diary growing icy in her grip. The room plunged into arctic cold, her exhales blooming like spectral clouds. Then catastrophe. The bedroom door slammed shut with explosive force, the antique lock snapping home like a predator's jaws. Panic ignited her veins. She pounded the unyielding wood, screaming into the void, but only mocking silence replied, until the whispers returned, intimate now, breathed hot against her ear. Join us, forever, give us your warmth. Whirling, flashlight trembling, Sarah swept the beam across the room. In the ornate mirror opposite the 4-poster bed, her reflection warped. Gone was her face. Instead, Lavinia's leered back, lips peeling to reveal jagged, rotten teeth in a grotesque smile. The glass undulated like disturbed water, and a pallid, claw-like hand thrust forth, nails elongated into talons, grasping for her throat. Sarah's scream tore the air as the diary tumbled from numb fingers. She lunged at the door, kicking with feral desperation until splinters flew and the lock shattered. She burst into the hallway, but the manor betrayed her. Corridors stretched and twisted like a living maze, doors that once opened to chambers now sealed with unyielding brick, staircases plummeting into bottomless voids. Stumbling, lungs burning, Sarah clawed her way to the attic, a suffocating crypt crammed with dust-shrouded trunks, shattered furniture, and relics of forgotten lives. Moonlight pierced the fractured skylight, painting the floor in silvery, shifting runes. Here, the whispers unified into Lavinia's voice, velvet seduction laced with venom. You chase stories, sweet intruder? Let me gift you one etched in eternity. Elias vowed me forever, but cowardice drove him to flee. Now I harvest the debt, one soul at a time. Stay, and your legend endures among us. Sarah retreated, spine slamming into a trunk that burst open unbidden. Yellowed letters cascaded out alongside a decayed doll, its button eyes glinting malevolently, stitched mouth twisting into a leer as its head swiveled toward her. From the gloom, spectral figures materialized, translucent victims of eras past, faces hollowed by eons of hunger, eyes pleading in silent agony. A man in threadbare Victorian finery extended skeletal fingers, mouthing, "Run!" without sound. But escape mocked her. The attic door fused shut, floorboards buckling like quicksand, tendrils of wood snaring her ankles. In blind fury, Sarah smashed the skylight with her elbow, shards raining down as torrential rain mingled with her blood. She hauled herself onto the steeply pitched roof, wind howling like the damned. The manor below pulsed with malevolent life, windows ablaze with phantom lights dancing in mockery. Inch by perilous inch, Sarah slid down slick tiles toward the gutter, Lavinia's laughter booming from within, a crystalline peal that shredded her nerves. She leaped into the void, crashing onto the thorn-laced lawn with a sickening crack, her ankle twisting fire-hot. Limping through agony to her car, keys slipped from blood-slick hands twice before the engine snarled awake. Shadowy tendrils lashed from the manor like whips, inches from her bumper as tires screamed and she fled. In the rearview, Lavinia stood sentinel in the driveway, green eyes blazing like cursed emeralds. Days later, back in her cramped city apartment, Sarah nursed wounds physical and unseen. She hammered out her exposé, but the words rebelled, curling on the page into nonsensical whispers. Nights brought no respite, The voices infiltrated her dreams, a relentless siren call pulling her toward Vermont. One fateful evening, staring into her bathroom mirror, her reflection fractured. Lavinia's face overlaid her own, whispering with Sarah's lips. "You can never leave. The manor owns you now, your stories, your fears, your soul." Sarah vanished without fanfare, her apartment barren save for a final diary entry in her own hand. The shadows follow. They hunger. And I am next. Locals swear that on stormy nights, a lone light flickers in Eldridge Manor's windows, accompanied by murmurs on the wind, beckoning and snaring. Heed the tales, for once you cross that threshold, the whispering shadows claim you forever, weaving your essence into their eternal, ravenous tapestry.